The first time I saw Jamie was like spotting a rare chess piece in a box of checkers. There I was, standing awkwardly at the entrance to the university chess club, clutching my second-hand chess set that had belonged to my grandfather. The room buzzed with the quiet intensity of ongoing matches, the soft click of pieces against boards, and occasional murmurs of check, breaking the contemplative silence. I hadn't planned on joining any clubs during my first semester of college, but my roommate insisted I needed to get out more, instead of spending Friday nights reading sci-fi novels and coding personal projects. So there I was, Alex Chen, computer science major and self-proclaimed introvert, about to step into a world I knew only from casual games with my grandfather and online matches against anonymous opponents. That's when I saw him. Jamie Sullivan was leaning over a chessboard, his dark curls falling slightly over his forehead as he contemplated his next move. There was something magnetic about his presence, the way his eyes lit up when he captured a piece, the slight smile that played on his lips when his opponent made a predictable move. I stood frozen, watching as he elegantly slid his bishop across the board and announced checkmate, with a gentle confidence that made even his defeated opponent smile. Let me explain why this moment matters. It wasn't just about seeing someone attractive or skilled at chess. It was about recognizing something in another person that resonated with a part of myself I'd kept hidden, passion. The pure, unadulterated joy Jamie took in the game reminded me of how I felt when solving a particularly challenging coding problem or finishing a beloved science fiction novel. It was authentic enthusiasm, something rare in a world where cynicism often passes for sophistication. I was still standing awkwardly by the door when the club president, a graduate student named Eliza with thick glasses and a no-nonsense attitude, noticed me. "Are you going to come in, or are you just going to stand there until the semester ends?" she called out, causing several heads to turn in my direction, including Jamie's. Our eyes met briefly, and I felt heat rising to my cheeks as I stumbled forward into the room. "I'm Alex," I managed to say, my voice cracking slightly. "I was thinking about joining the club." "Perfect timing," Eliza said, pushing her glasses up her nose. "We're always looking for fresh blood to crush." Her serious expression broke into a grin. "Just kidding. Mostly. We're actually pretty friendly here." As Eliza gave me a quick tour of the club space, a medium-sized room with about a dozen chess tables, a small library of chess books in the corner, and a bulletin board covered with tournament announcements, I couldn't help but notice Jamie watching me from the corner of my eye. When Eliza asked if I wanted to play a game to get started, I nodded, hoping I wouldn't be paired with Jamie. I wasn't ready to embarrass myself in front of him just yet. But of course, the universe has a way of ignoring such wishes. "Jamie," Eliza called out, "you just finished your game, right? How about showing our newcomer the ropes?" And that's how I found myself sitting across from Jamie Sullivan, his warm brown eyes studying me with interest as he extended his hand. "Jamie Sullivan. Pleased to meet you, Alex." His handshake was firm but gentle, and I noticed a small tattoo on his wrist, the outline of a knight chess piece. "Nice tattoo," I said, immediately regretting drawing attention to the fact that I'd been staring at his hand. Jamie smiled, glancing down at his wrist. "Thanks. Got it after my first tournament win. Chess has been my obsession since I was 7. He started setting up the board, his movements fluid and practiced. "What about you? Been playing long?" "Just casually," I admitted, helping to arrange the pieces on my side. "My grandfather taught me when I was a kid. I play online sometimes, but I'm nothing special." "Everyone starts somewhere," Jamie said with an encouraging smile. "And there's no such thing as nothing special in chess. Every player has their own style, their own approach to the game. That's what makes it beautiful." There was something about the way he said it, like he genuinely believed that everyone had something unique to offer, that made me relax a little. As we began to play, I expected Jamie to quickly demolish me, but instead, he took his time, occasionally pointing out alternative moves I might have made or explaining the strategy behind his choices. "See, when you moved your pawn here," he said, pointing to the board, "you opened up a diagonal for my bishop. But if you had moved this knight instead, you could have protected your queen while threatening my rook." I found myself nodding, absorbing his advice with genuine interest. Chess had always been just a casual pastime for me, but seeing it through Jamie's eyes, as this complex dance of strategy and psychology, made me see the game in an entirely new light. By the end of the evening, Jamie had won 2 games against me, but they weren't the crushing defeats I had expected. He had clearly held back, using our matches as teaching opportunities rather than chances to show off his skill. As we packed up the chess pieces, I found myself wanting to continue our conversation. "So, do you come to the club every week?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Jamie nodded. Every Friday, and sometimes on Tuesdays for the advanced practice sessions. He paused, studying me for a moment. You should come back next week. You've got good instincts. With a little practice, you could be quite formidable. I couldn't help but laugh. I think formidable might be a stretch, but I'd like to improve. I could help you, if you want, Jamie offered, slinging his backpack over his shoulder. I'm not a certified instructor or anything, but I've been told I'm a decent teacher. The offer caught me off guard. Why would someone like Jamie, clearly a skilled player with better things to do, want to spend time teaching a novice like me? But before my insecurity could fully form into a rejection, I heard myself say, that would be great, actually. Thanks. And that was how it began. Our weekly chess lessons that would eventually lead to so much more than either of us could have anticipated. Our first official lesson took place in the campus coffee shop the following Tuesday. I arrived early, securing a table in the corner where we could set up a chessboard without disturbing others. I was nervous, having spent the weekend watching chess tutorials online in a desperate attempt to not seem completely clueless when Jamie arrived. When he walked in, wearing a faded Star Trek t-shirt under an open button-down, I felt an immediate sense of relief. The shirt was a conversation starter, a sign that perhaps we shared interests beyond chess. Nice shirt, I said as he sat down across from me. Original series or next generation? Jamie's face lit up. Both have their merits, but I'm a next generation guy at heart. Picard over Kirk any day. He leaned forward conspiratorially. Don't tell the chess club, but sometimes I think about chess in terms of Star Trek characters. Bishops are definitely Spock, logical, moving at angles. Knights are like Worf. They have unusual movement patterns and can surprise you. I laughed, genuinely delighted by this nerdy analogy. What about the Queen? Data, Jamie replied without hesitation. Versatile, powerful, and often the key to your success. As we set up the chessboard, our conversation flowed easily from Star Trek to other sci-fi franchises, to our respective majors. Jamie was studying literature with a focus on game theory, which somehow made perfect sense, and finally back to chess. Today, I want to focus on openings, Jamie explained, moving his pawn to e4, the most common first move in chess. The opening sets the tone for the entire game. It's like the first chapter of a novel. It establishes the themes and possibilities for everything that follows. I nodded, moving my own pawn to e5, mirroring his move. So what makes a good opening? Control of the center, development of pieces, and king safety, Jamie recited, as if quoting from a textbook. Then he smiled. But really, it's about finding the balance between following established patterns that work and introducing your own creativity to throw off your opponent. Over the next hour, Jamie introduced me to various opening strategies, the Ruy Lopez, the Sicilian defense, the Queen's Gambit. He was patient when I made mistakes and enthusiastic when I made good moves. His teaching style was engaging and personal, filled with stories about famous chess matches and players who had used these openings to great effect. Bobby Fischer once said that chess is life, Jamie told me as we reset the board for another practice game. I think what he meant is that chess, like life, is about making choices. Every move creates new possibilities and closes off others. You can't take moves back. You can only adapt to the new reality your choices have created. I considered this as I contemplated my next move. That's pretty profound for a board game, I said, finally moving my knight. Jamie smiled, his eyes meeting mine across the board. That's why I love it. It's never just a game. As the weeks passed, our chess lessons became the highlight of my otherwise routine college life. We met twice a week, once at the chess club and once for our private lesson, which had expanded from the coffee shop to include the library, the park, and occasionally one of our dorm rooms when the weather was bad. Jamie was a gifted teacher, adapting his instruction to match my learning style. He noticed that I learned best through patterns and logical sequences, so he framed chess concepts in terms of algorithms and flowcharts that appealed to my programmer's mind. In return, I introduced him to some of my favorite sci-fi authors and coding concepts, pleased when he showed genuine interest in my world. It was during one of our lessons in the park, as autumn leaves swirled around our chess table, that I first noticed a shift in our dynamic. Jamie had been explaining the concept of a Zwischenzug, an intermediate move that changes the expected sequence of play. It's like when you think your opponent is forced to respond one way, but they insert this unexpected move that changes everything, he explained, demonstrating on the board. As he reached across to move a piece, our hands brushed briefly. It was a small contact, the kind that happens all the time without notice, but this time I felt a jolt of awareness. Jamie paused, his eyes meeting mine for a moment longer than usual before he continued his explanation. From that moment on, I became hyper-aware of our physical proximity during lessons, the way Jamie would lean in to point out a move, how our knees sometimes touched under small coffee shop tables. The subtle cologne he wore that I could only detect when we sat close together. I told myself I was imagining the tension, that Jamie was just being friendly and I was projecting my own developing feelings onto our interactions. But then came the moments that were harder to dismiss. Jamie remembering how I took my coffee and having it waiting for me when I arrived for our lessons, the way he'd text me chess memes at random hours with messages like, "Thought of you when I saw this." The time he defended me when an arrogant player at the chess club made dismissive comments about my skill level. "Alex has more natural talent than you have after years of playing," Jamie had said, his usually friendly demeanor turning cool. "And unlike you, he's willing to learn and improve instead of just showing off." The incident had left me with a warm feeling that lingered for days, though I still wasn't sure if Jamie's protectiveness was friendly or something more. Our relationship continued in this ambiguous space until the announcement of the regional collegiate chess tournament. The event was open to players of all levels, with separate brackets for beginners, intermediates, and advanced players. "You should enter," Jamie said during one of our lessons, pushing the tournament flyer across the table to me. "The beginner bracket would be perfect for you." I stared at the flyer, anxiety immediately bubbling up. "I don't think I'm ready for a tournament. I've only been playing seriously for a few months." "And you've improved tremendously in that time," Jamie insisted, leaning forward with that earnest expression that always made it hard to say no to him. "It would be good experience, and there's no pressure to win. It's about participating and seeing what a tournament environment is like." When I still looked unconvinced, Jamie added, "I'll be there too, in the advanced bracket. We could prepare together, make a weekend of it." The thought of spending an entire weekend with Jamie, away from campus at the hotel where the tournament was being held, finally convinced me. "Okay," I agreed, trying to ignore the flutter of nerves in my stomach, nerves that had as much to do with the prospect of extended time with Jamie as with the tournament itself. The weeks leading up to the tournament intensified our chess lessons. Jamie became more focused, pushing me harder but always with encouragement and positive feedback. We spent hours analyzing possible scenarios, studying my weaknesses and developing strategies to compensate for them. "Your mid-game is strong," Jamie observed during one of our preparation sessions. "You think several moves ahead and you're good at identifying patterns. But your openings are still too cautious, and you sometimes miss opportunities in the endgame because you're focused on defense rather than seeing paths to victory." I nodded, recognizing the truth in his assessment. "I guess I'm afraid of making a bold move and having it backfire." Jamie's expression softened. "That's not just about chess, is it?" The question caught me off guard. Jamie had a way of seeing through my defenses, of recognizing when my approach to chess reflected my approach to life. I shrugged, uncomfortable with how accurate his observation was. "Taking risks is scary," Jamie continued when I didn't respond. "But sometimes the greatest rewards come from being willing to make yourself vulnerable." His eyes held mine, and for a moment I thought he might be talking about something beyond chess again. But then he smiled and returned his attention to the board. "Let's work on some aggressive opening strategies. You might find you enjoy playing offense more than you expect." The weekend of the tournament arrived with a mix of excitement and dread. Jamie and I traveled together on the train to the neighboring city where the event was being held. The 2-hour journey passed quickly as we alternated between reviewing chess strategies and sharing stories from our childhoods. Jamie's experiences growing up with 3 sisters in a small town in Vermont. My life as an only child of immigrant parents in suburban New Jersey. By the time we checked into the hotel, a modest but clean establishment where most of the tournament participants were staying, I felt both mentally prepared for the competition and increasingly aware of my growing feelings for Jamie. We had a room with 2 double beds, and the domesticity of unpacking our things side by side, deciding who would shower first, and debating where to go for dinner felt both natural and thrillingly new. The tournament began the next morning. The ballroom of the hotel had been transformed into a chess arena, with dozens of tables arranged in sections according to skill level. Jamie walked me to my section, giving me a final pep talk before heading to the advanced area on the other side of the room. "Remember, this is about the experience, not the outcome," he said, his hand resting briefly on my shoulder. "You've prepared well. Trust your instincts." My first match was against a nervous-looking freshman from a state university. I could tell he was as new to tournament play as I was, which helped calm my own nerves. Remembering Jamie's advice to be more aggressive in my openings, I chose the Sicilian defense in response to my opponent's e4, immediately taking the game in a direction that created tension and possibilities. To my surprise, I won that first game, and then the second against a more experienced but overly cautious player. By lunchtime, I had won 3 matches and lost 1, putting me in a decent position in the beginner bracket. I met up with Jamie, who had won all his morning matches, for a quick lunch in the hotel restaurant. "You're doing great," he said, his face glowing with pride. "I watched the end of your 3rd match. That night's sacrifice was brilliant." I felt a flush of pleasure at his praise. "I was thinking about what you said. Sometimes you have to make yourself vulnerable to gain an advantage." I saw that if I sacrificed the knight, it would open up his king's position. Jamie's smile widened. "Exactly. You're a natural strategist, Alex. You just needed to trust yourself more." The afternoon brought more challenging opponents as the brackets narrowed. I lost my 5th match but rebounded to win the 6th, which meant I would advance to the semifinals in the beginner bracket the next day, far better than I had expected to perform. Jamie had also advanced in the advanced bracket, though he had faced tougher competition and had 1 loss among his victories. We celebrated our successes with dinner at a small Italian restaurant near the hotel, where Jamie insisted on ordering a glass of wine for each of us. "To exceeding expectations," he toasted, clinking his glass against mine. The wine, the intimate lighting of the restaurant, and the euphoria of the day's successes combined to make me bolder than usual. "Why did you offer to teach me chess?" I asked, a question that had lingered in my mind since our first lesson. "You're so good, and I was a complete beginner. What made you want to spend time with me?" Jamie seemed surprised by the question. He took a sip of his wine, considering his answer. "Honestly, at first, it was because I thought you were cute." The admission sent a jolt through me. "Really?" Jamie nodded, a slight blush coloring his cheeks. "You walked into the chess club looking so earnest and a little lost, clutching that vintage chess set. I thought, I need to meet this guy." He smiled, twirling his wine glass between his fingers. "But then I got to know you, and I realized you were not only cute but also smart, kind, and genuinely interested in learning. Teaching you became about more than just an excuse to spend time with you. It became something I looked forward to because I enjoyed seeing you improve and discover a love for the game." I sat there, processing his words, my heart racing. All this time, I had been wondering if Jamie might reciprocate my feelings, and now he was openly admitting his initial attraction. But before I could formulate a response, Jamie continued. "I hope that doesn't make things weird between us," he said, suddenly looking concerned. "I value our friendship too much to risk it. If you're not comfortable." "No," I interrupted, finding my voice. "It doesn't make things weird. It's actually nice to know." I wanted to say more, to tell him that I felt the same way, but courage failed me at the last moment. Instead, I steered the conversation back to safer territory: the tournament, our strategies for tomorrow's matches, a new sci-fi show we'd both been watching. The moment passed, but something had shifted between us. There was a new awareness, and unspoken acknowledgement that had changed the dynamic. As we walked back to the hotel, our hands brushed occasionally, and each time I wondered if it was accidental or deliberate. The second day of the tournament brought higher stakes and greater pressure. My semifinal match in the beginner bracket was against a focused young woman who played with remarkable precision for someone in the beginner category. The game was tight, with advantages shifting back and forth. In the end, a small miscalculation on my part cost me the game, and I was eliminated from the competition. Rather than feeling disappointed, I was surprised to find myself satisfied with how far I'd come. Months ago, I wouldn't have imagined being able to compete at this level at all. I made my way to the advanced section to watch Jamie's semifinal match, arriving just in time to see him execute a brilliant combination that forced his opponent to resign. Jamie would be playing in the finals of the advanced bracket, an impressive achievement even for someone with his skill level. The final match was scheduled for later that afternoon, giving him a few hours to rest and prepare. "Want to get some air?" he suggested after accepting congratulations from several other players. "I need to clear my head before the final." We walked through the small park adjacent to the hotel, the autumn air crisp and invigorating. Jamie was quieter than usual, and I could sense the pressure he was feeling. "You're going to do great in the final," I said, trying to offer encouragement. "That combination you played in the semifinal was amazing." Jamie smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Thanks. My opponent in the final is really good, though. He's a former state champion." "So what? You've beaten strong players before." "True." Jamie stopped walking, turning to face me. Can I tell you something? Of course, I replied, curious about his serious tone. I'm more nervous about this conversation than I am about the final match. I frowned, confused. What conversation? Jamie took a deep breath. The one where I tell you that last night wasn't just about finding you cute when we first met. It's about how I've been falling for you more and more over these past months. How teaching you chess became the highlight of my week, not because of the chess, but because of you. My heart seemed to stop and then restart at double speed. Jamie, You don't have to say anything, he interrupted, his words coming faster now. I know this might be one-sided, and that's okay. I just needed to tell you before I lost my nerve again. Last night at dinner, I came close, but then backed off because I was afraid of ruining what we have. But today, watching you play with such confidence and seeing how far you've come, I realized life is too short not to take the risks that matter. In that moment, I thought of all the chess lessons Jamie had given me, about strategy, about thinking ahead, about seeing the whole board. But the most important lesson had been about taking risks, about making yourself vulnerable to gain something valuable. It was time to apply that lesson off the board. It's not one-sided, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I've been feeling the same way, but I was too afraid to say anything. I didn't think someone like you would be interested in someone like me. Jamie's expression transformed from anxiety to joy. Someone like me? Alex, you're brilliant, thoughtful, and one of the kindest people I've ever met. Not to mention adorable when you're concentrating on a chess problem. We stood there in the park, grinning at each other like idiots, neither of us quite sure what to do next. Finally, Jamie glanced at his watch. I should probably head back soon. The final match. Right, I nodded, suddenly remembering the tournament. You need to focus. Actually, Jamie said, stepping closer, I think I need something else first. Something to help me play my best game. And then he was leaning in, his hand gently cupping my cheek, and our lips met in a kiss that felt like the perfect culmination of months of growing feelings. It was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as we both realized this was exactly what we wanted. When we finally pulled apart, I couldn't help but laugh softly. What's so funny? Jamie asked, his hand still resting on my cheek. I just realized your strategy all along, I said, smiling up at him. Teaching me chess was just your elaborate way of setting up a checkmate, except in this case, checkmate was a kiss. Jamie laughed, the sound warm and genuine. If that's true, it's the longest game I've ever played. And definitely the most rewarding victory. We walked back to the hotel hand in hand, and I watched from the front row as Jamie played in the final match of the tournament. Whether it was our conversation in the park or simply his skill and preparation, Jamie played brilliantly, defeating the former state champion in a game that had spectators murmuring in appreciation of the elegant strategy he employed. As the tournament director presented Jamie with his trophy, our eyes met across the room, and I knew that regardless of chess victories or defeats, we had both won something far more valuable that weekend. The weeks and months that followed brought new challenges and joys as we navigated our relationship. Coming out to our friends at the chess club was easier than expected. Most of them had apparently seen our attraction to each other long before we acknowledged it ourselves. Eliza, the club president, just rolled her eyes and said, finally. The tension was affecting everyone's game. Telling our families was more complicated. Jamie's parents were immediately supportive, having already known he was gay. My parents needed more time to adjust to the news, their traditional expectations colliding with their love for me. But over time, seeing how happy Jamie made me, they came to accept and eventually embrace our relationship. Our chess games continued, though they took on a different character now. Sometimes they were serious training sessions as Jamie helped me improve my skills for local tournaments. Other times they were playful contests with creative stakes. Loser cooks dinner, winner chooses the movie for date night. And occasionally, they were slow, strategic games played late at night in one of our dorm rooms, each move punctuated by kisses and conversations about our hopes for the future. Chess had brought us together, but our relationship grew far beyond the confines of the 64 squares. We discovered shared passions for science fiction, hiking, and terrible puns. We supported each other through finals weeks and family dramas. We learned each other's habits and quirks, Jamie's inability to function before coffee in the morning, my tendency to get lost in coding projects and forget to eat. 1 year after the tournament where we had first acknowledged our feelings, we hosted a chess night in our new shared apartment, inviting friends from the chess club and our other social circles. As our guests played casual games and enjoyed snacks, Jamie pulled me aside to the small balcony. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. An anniversary gift. Inside was a silver keychain in the shape of a chess piece, a knight. "Turn it over," Jamie instructed. Engraved on the back were the coordinates of our first move, both in chess notation and in life, e4, e5, and the date of our first kiss. "So I'll always remember where we started," I said, deeply touched by the thoughtful gift. "And where we're going," Jamie added, pulling me close. "I'm thinking at least 50 more years of moves together." As we kissed under the stars, I thought about how a simple game of strategy had led to the most important relationship of my life. Jamie had taught me chess, but together we were learning something far more complex and rewarding: the beautiful, challenging game of building a life together, one move at a time. Total _char_count, 18,746.